He was the most powerful man on earth. He ruled an empire that stretched from the Euphrates to the Sudan. He commanded armies. He controlled the Nile. He was worshipped as a god. And after he died, the civilization he ruled spent 50 years trying to erase every trace that he had ever existed. His name was Akhenaten, and his story is the most dangerous idea in the ancient world, and what happens to the person who has it. To understand Akhenaten, you have to understand what Egypt was before him. Egypt in 1353 BCE was the most sophisticated civilization on the planet. It had been building pyramids for over 1,000 years. It had a legal system, a medical tradition, an astronomical calendar accurate to within minutes. It had art, poetry, music, and a bureaucracy so efficient it administered millions of people across thousands of kilometers. And at the center of all of it, holding it together like mortar between stones, was religion. Not one god, thousands. Ra, Amun, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Anubis, Thoth, Sekhmet, Hathor. Each with their own temples, their own priesthoods, their own festivals, their own enormous economic power. The temples of Amun alone owned a third of all arable land in Egypt. They controlled trade routes, workshops, granaries. The high priest of Amun was arguably the second most powerful person in Egypt after the Pharaoh. This was the world Akhenaten inherited, and he decided to burn it down. In the 5th year of his reign, Akhenaten did something no ruler in the ancient world had ever done, and no ruler would do again for 1,000 years. He declared that only one God existed, not the most important God, not the king of the gods, the only God. Aten, the sun disk, was the sole divine force in the universe. All other gods were not lesser deities. They were not demoted. They were declared false, fabrications, lies that the priesthood had told the people for centuries to maintain their own power. He ordered the temples of Amun sealed. He stripped the priests of their wealth and their authority. He sent workers across Egypt with chisels to remove the name of Amun from every monument, every tomb, every inscription they could find. He changed his own name. He had been born Amenhotep, meaning Amun is satisfied. He became Akhenaten, effective spirit of Aten. He built an entirely new capital city from nothing, Akhenaten, the city we now call Amarna, on a stretch of desert that had never been settled, dedicated entirely to the worship of the one God. He moved the entire royal court there. Thousands of people, bureaucrats, soldiers, artists, servants, all relocated to this new city in the middle of nowhere. He composed hymns to Aten that some scholars believe are the earliest precursors to the 104th Psalm in the Bible. He created, whether intentionally or not, the world's first recorded monotheistic state religion. Akhenaten ruled for 17 years, and for 17 years it worked. The economy of Egypt did not collapse. The army continued to function. The administration kept running. The Nile kept flooding. The harvest kept coming. The gods, it turned out, were not necessary for Egypt to function. What Akhenaten proved, perhaps without fully realizing it, was that the entire theological infrastructure of Egypt, the 1,000-year-old system of gods and priests and temples and rituals, was not actually holding anything together. The priests were. The priests had always been, and when a pharaoh threatened to take that away from them, they waited. Akhenaten died around 1336 BCE. The cause is unknown. He was approximately 40 years old. Within months of his death, everything he had built began to unravel. His young son, a 9-year-old boy who would become the most famous pharaoh in history purely by accident of his tomb's survival, was placed on the throne. His name had been Tutankhaten. He was quickly renamed Tutankhamen, returning the name of Amun to the royal house. The priests had won. They moved fast. The capital was abandoned. Amarna was left to the desert. Within a generation, it was being used as a quarry, its stones stripped for use in other construction projects. The temples of Amun were reopened. The old priesthood was restored. The old wealth came back. And then came the erasure. What the priests and the succeeding pharaohs did to Akhenaten's memory was systematic and deliberate in a way that still impresses scholars today. His statues were smashed, not just toppled, smashed into pieces too small to reassemble. His face was chiseled off temple walls across Egypt. His name was removed from official king lists, the records that every Egyptian dynasty maintained of every pharaoh who had ever ruled. He was not listed as a criminal. He was not listed as a failed ruler. He simply did not appear at all. He was referred to in the few documents that mentioned him at all as the heretic or the criminal of Akhenaten. His immediate successors, Smenkhkare, Neferuaten, Tutankhamun I, were also removed from the official records. The dynasty was written as going directly from Amenhotep III, Akhenaten's father, to Horemheb, the general who seized power after Tutankhamun's death. 17 years of Egyptian history simply disappeared. For 3,000 years it worked. Akhenaten was not rediscovered until the 1880s, when Egyptian archaeologists and later European scholars began excavating the ruins of Amarna, the city that had been buried under desert sand for 33 centuries. What they found astonished them: a city frozen in time, artwork unlike anything seen in Egyptian tradition, naturalistic, emotional, almost modern in its style. Royal portraits showing the pharaoh with an elongated skull, a hanging belly, wide hips, a deliberate break from the idealized perfection of traditional Egyptian royal imagery. And inscriptions, hymns, theological texts that represented a completely coherent monotheistic religion, developed in extraordinary detail, centuries before the monotheisms that would reshape the world. The Amarna letters, 382 clay tablets found at the site, revealed the diplomatic correspondence of Akhenaten's reign. Letters from Babylon, from Assyria, from the Hittites, from the kingdoms of Canaan, an entire lost chapter of ancient history, buried under sand. The question that scholars have debated for over a century is this: was Akhenaten a visionary, a man who genuinely grasped something about the nature of divinity that no one around him could see? Or was he a power-hungry autocrat who used theology to destroy the only institution capable of checking his authority, the priesthood? Perhaps both things are true. Perhaps the most dangerous ideas are always the ones that serve the person who has them, and also happen to be correct. The priests of Amun were not protecting Egypt from a madman. They were protecting their own power from a man who had correctly identified that their power was built on a fiction. And when he died, they erased him, not because he was wrong, because he was right. And because being right in the ancient world as in any other is not sufficient protection against the people who benefit from you being forgotten. There is one final detail worth knowing. In 2010, DNA analysis of Tutankhamun's mummy confirmed that his father was almost certainly Akhenaten. The boy king, whose golden death mask has become the most recognizable image of ancient Egypt, was the son of the man Egypt tried hardest to erase. Tutankhamun died at 19. His tomb was sealed and forgotten, buried under the debris of later construction. It was not discovered until 1922. And when Howard Carter opened that tomb, when he held his candle up to the hole in the plaster wall, and the treasures of 3,000 years ago caught the light, he was looking at the son of a man who never officially existed. History is strange like that. The people it buries most aggressively have a way of coming back. Their names return, their ideas survive. The priests who erase them are themselves forgotten. And the heretic king who rewrote the nature of God, whose hymns echo in the oldest scriptures still read today, turns out to have been harder to erase than anyone imagined. Akhenaten was supposed to disappear. He didn't. The truth has always been there, hiding in plain sight. If this changed how you see history, share it with someone who needs to know. Subscribe to Hidden Legends, because every legend hides a darker story.